Podcast. 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 Yeah, welcome to another episode of the Racer X Exhaust Podcast, brought to you by Yoshimura. We are sneaking this thing in right at the wire. It is the end of 2019, end of the decade. End of the decade. So much to discuss, but no one cares about looking back at the decade now. That's a cop-out. That's an excuse. What everyone wants to do is look forward. And that's Anaheim 1, which comes up in 4 days from Tuesday afternoon here when I am recording this. And that's the key. I know retro has become very, very popular these days, but any sport that has more people wanting to look back than forward is in a bad spot. And luckily, as much as we love two-strokes and retro gear and, oh, the racing used to be better back then, blah, 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 we cannot resist Anaheim fever the week of the first race. It's Christmas, it's New Year's, it's the greatest gift of all for our sport, and I know that Anaheim 1 has got everyone pumped up, so that's what I'm going to discuss here. I am Jason Weigandt. This all brought to you by Yoshimura. Have a whole bunch of Yoshimura pipes out on the racetrack, including doubles in the back of the Hondas. Ken Roczen, Justin Brayton, the Geico Honda team. Yoshimura just put together a really cool new video with their latest recruit, Jet Lawrence. Recruit not only on the track, but off in their video. They have him actually training to work in the Yoshimura factory in California in case the racing thing doesn't work out. Yeah, Yoshimura pipes, made in the USA, made in California. I've been there. I've taken the tour. I've watched it. Raw materials come in. They turn them in the pipes. They ship them out of the building. 100% made in the USA. Yoshimura. Go to Yoshimura-RD. And check that out. Also, Racer X, we got a new issue out. Rider of the Year is Cooper Webb. I'm pretty pumped on the story I was able to put together with Cooper. He is not the most boisterous, outspoken person as far as quantity in the media. You don't see a ton of content or coverage of Cooper. But when he does do stuff, he does it very well. This was, I think, November. I texted him and said, congratulations, you're the Rider of the Year again. He was Rider of the Year also for Racer X in 2016. I said, will you have time in the next week or so to talk? And he said, why don't you call me right now? So I did. He was at the car wash. And we chatted for almost an hour about a lot of different things. We've gone over 1 million times the down years with Yamaha and rebuilding his program and becoming Supercross champion. And I have to say that as much as people would like to tell the story that Webb was motivated by being counted out or that helped him with his chip on the shoulder, that really wasn't a thing. Webb was the first to admit he wasn't good in 2017 and 2018, so he should have been counted out. We wanted the narrative of the story to be that the opening round press conference at Anaheim last year had 11 riders, and Cooper wasn't even one of the 11 they picked to be in the press conference. So we wanted the angle to be that motivated him, but guess what? He said, I had been there the previous 2 years and I didn't do anything, so I didn't really deserve to be in the press conference. He wasn't mad about it at all. He had, as much as Webb is thought of as a headstrong guy, and for motocross terms at least, a cocky guy, those 2 years had humbled him quite a bit, and he knew there wasn't any reason to be over the top about why isn't anyone talking about me, and I'm going to show everyone this year. He didn't expect to have the level of success in 2019 that he did. He actually surprised himself. But what was interesting about the story was that while he went from the bottom to the top, he has maintained a lot of the same things, a lot of the same friendships, a lot of the same attitudes. Even though he had to leave North Carolina and move to Florida to make it happen, he still has a tight-knit group. They're not publicized like Team Fried, but he's got his boys. He sticks with them. They come and visit. He still comes up here to the Charlotte area to visit when he can during some off weekends. So it's very revealing into the true character of Cooper Webb. Not the race day character, but the guy that exists as a normal guy in November. It's all a giant plug. Go to racerxonline.com/subscribe and read about our Rider of the Year, Cooper Webb. I'm going to give you the money quote. I'll give you the money quote from that story. Ready? I asked Webb if he was, thinking, I can hang out with a higher group of people or a more accomplished group of people. I can ditch my old friends now that I'm Supercross champ. And he said, nah, man, you can't separate yourself from anyone. All people are the same. because he went to public school and he learned that in a hurry. And he said even though when he was a teenager maybe he was having some success as a racer, he said, I wasn't shit compared to the high school quarterback. There you go. That's perspective that Cooper Webb has that a lot of his peers, I don't think they do have that. They've probably been told since age 12 they were the best thing in the world. Cooper went to regular high school. If you're a fast motocross rider in regular high school, nobody cares. So I think that helps him keep perspective. And although the podium Cooper Webb might appear to have a little attitude to him, the during the week Cooper Webb is actually pretty normal, pretty chill, and pretty humble. So read that in the latest issue and just think about those things as we head to Supercross 2020. So let's talk about it. Monster Energy AMA Supercross and FM World Championship. Coming to you, Anaheim. Cooper Webb obviously is the big part of the story. He is the defending champ. Like all defending champions, we now have to wonder, where is he in the pantheon? We're going to find out 3 years from now. Was the 2019 season just the beginning of a Cooper Webb run? Is it the beginning of a Cooper Webb era? Or is it just a one-year thing? We're going to find that out really quickly. We put the same exact marker on Ryan Dungey when he first won in 2010, when Ryan Villopoto first won in 2011, when Jason Anderson won the title in 2018. Ever since Jeremy McGrath completely changed the idea of what dominance looks like, you're supposed to win the title every time, all the time, and win most of the races while you're doing it. That is now the standard. And it's clear because when McGrath's reign ended in 2001 at the hands of Ricky Carmichael, Carmichael didn't just take the title from him. He won 13 straight races that year. And now the record books, all the top all-time winners in Supercross are either McGrath or riders that came after McGrath. You go back to that crazy era in the mid-'80s, and the competition was so level across the board. There were a couple years, I think 85 and one other year, where no one even won 2 races in a row all season. There were 0 win streaks of any kind all season. Just a totally different expectation now, although we are at least getting back to that a little bit. The Anderson and Webb championship runs were perfectly executed. But I don't think during the season or by the end of the season, anyone said, well, that's it. These are just the best guys by far. No one can touch them. Everyone still believes that Tomac and Roczen and Muscan and Anderson to Webb or Webb to Anderson, everyone believes that all of these different guys could still win on any given weekend or could still be the champion at the end of the year. So we're in an unpredictable era right now, partially because we just don't have enough data. If Webb wins 2 or 3 championships in a row, then we will have known, actually 2019 was just the first indicator of this dominant run. But it gets a little more complicated than that. It's because of the way Cooper Webb goes about it. I have never seen anyone approach winning quite the way Cooper Webb does. During his doldrums, during his dark years of 2017 and 18, he said the only reason he didn't completely give up on himself and think it was never going to work out is because of one race. It was the Charlotte USGP at the end of 2016. Now, I was at that race, and it was amazing. It was a man-made motocross track. It was very hard to pass, very hard to make up ground. And in the second moto, Webb got a bad start, and Jeffrey Hurlings was out front. And Hurlings had beaten Webb straight up in the first moto. He caught him, he passed him, he beat him. So no one was thinking that Webb was going to come from behind and catch a guy who beat him earlier in the day on a track where you really couldn't make up time. But then he did that. He did it. And I remember standing next to Gareth Swanepoel, who was Webb's trainer at the time, and all of a sudden the lap time started to dip, and we started to do the math, and I just looked at him, and he looked at me, and there was just this bewilderment of, these are the things you can't teach. There's just some sort of different drive or heart or in-the-zone moment that is only going to come out in the second moto of a race that he really wants to win. You're not going to get this on a Tuesday or a Thursday at the test track. And Webb was able to catch and pass Hurlings and beat him straight up. And Webb held that the whole time, saying, if I can do that, then I must be good. Even in the 2 years that he was bad on a 450, he knew that if you beat Jeffrey Hurlings straight up in any sort of motocross race, you've got something. So for Webb, it only manifested itself in these strange ways. He was not on pace on practice that day. He was not on pace in the first moto that day. He told me this one key word at the end of that MXGP. He said, I had to just see what he was doing and apply it. Now, that's the goal of every rider, right? They go back, they watch tape, they watch practice footage, they talk to the people on their team, and they're told what the other riders are doing and what they need to do to try to go faster than them. But to actually see it and do it and apply it, that's incredibly rare. But Cooper Webb has made a career of doing it. Starting off on the back foot, not looking so good in practice, maybe not being the fastest guy during the week, but applying it and getting better throughout the day. And then at the end of the day, in the race that counts the most, figuring it out. And that's what made his 2019 Supercross program both odd to see, but also normal, because it's the way Cooper always does it. It's just not the way we see most riders do it. Look, there's all these variables when we talk about consistency and things like that, but honestly, the fastest guy is generally going to have the best chance of winning the race. You don't normally see someone ninth in practice end up winning the main event. There are exceptions to those rules, for sure, and I'm sure you're thinking of some right now, but I will always counter that math with, sure, it happens sometimes, but the majority of the time, that's not how it works. But we saw time and time again last year, Cooper Webb had his back up against the wall, and we thought this is going to be the week where he's struggling. This is the week where it's not going to work. And then that dude goes out, gets a whole shot, which, by the way, he went from a bad starter to a great starter in 1 year. Thank you, Red Bull KTM. That's what he's going to say about that. He would get a good start, and he would suddenly ride better when it counts, which is the opposite of most riders. So it's just hard to detect. You don't normally see that, and it leads to either, oh man, Webb just happened to have the ball bounce his way, or, oh man, Webb is able to make the ball bounce his way. Was it just his year, quote unquote, or is he able to make every year like that? It's just a different approach than we're used to seeing. Now, look, this isn't as easy as just looking at the win chart. I know he won the most races last year. He did win the most races last year. But I'm going to get a little deeper. This is the kind of analysis that I'm talking about. After Cooper Webb's scintillating win at Dallas last year, which is one of the all-time great Supercross performances, there was this 50-50 coin flip of, does that win officially mean, dude, he's the guy, he's going to win the title this year? Or is it too early to say that? Let's see, Dallas was round 7 of 17. So to some people, it was preposterous to say after round 7, you're declaring someone the champion in a 17-race series. But I honestly thought, look, I've seen this before. You have one race like this, it proves you're the guy, you're going to go on to win the championship. I believed it that very night. But some people did not. And we went to Detroit the very next race, and he was 9th in practice. And it really did start to look like, okay, well, maybe there's some life left for these other guys. Maybe Cooper's going to struggle. But Detroit was a triple crown. Cooper got better as the night went on. The whoops that were absolutely killing him in practice got easier. They could start jumping through them. And he ended up 2nd overall. 2nd for the night in a triple crown on what could have been a terrible night. That's the kind of stuff I'm talking about. You do not see that type of thing very often. And I know everyone's going to say Ryan Dungey wasn't the fastest. Bro, Ryan Dungey was fast, okay? I don't think Ryan Dungey was 9th in qualifying very often. Ryan Dungey was super fast. Maybe Ryan Villopoto could go a little bit faster. But Ryan Dungey was probably never the 9th fastest guy. And in Dungey's 2 best Supercross seasons, 2015 and 2016, I think he was the fastest guy. He was the fastest guy. He didn't win the title because he just got a bunch of podiums. He won a ton of races. When he won titles outdoors, he won a ton of races. There's this myth that Ryan Dungey was like the 4th best dude and would just take thirds every weekend, and at the end of the season, they'd total up the points, and he'd be champ. Usually when Dungey won the title, he won a lot of races. Look at how many races Dungey has won. So I'm saying that Cooper Webb's approach is different. It makes it hard to detect. We have 1 year of data of him being the best Supercross rider. We have several races last year where he went about it differently than we're used to seeing riders go about it. So now the question is this a sustainable formula? Is the Cooper Webb managing things and getting better and executing throughout the night when he doesn't roll it right off the truck immediately as the fastest guy? Is that something he can do year after year, week after week? Or did things just work out for him? We do not know. We don't have enough data, and that's what makes this season so exciting. Plus, look, you have to respect everybody else that's in the field. We know Eli Tomac is good. We know Ken Roczen is good. We know Jason Anderson is good. And I'll give you a sleeper. Zach Osborne rides with these guys a lot, and he is every bit as fast as them, if not faster, during the week. I may or may not have heard that Osborne has been a little bit quicker than Webb throughout this offseason. And that's what I'm saying. With most riders, you would say, Webb's in trouble. But lap times for Webb in November and December and lap times in the main event in a race in March are two totally different things. But I do want to give credit to Osborne, who was hauling the mail, laying the wood. We heard all these things in last year's offseason. Then he broke his collarbone. And when he came back from injury, he was kind of underwhelming. On the outside, it's because he was coming back from injury, and that's why it took him some time to get back up to speed. But I will tell you, on the inside, there were some other things going on with the motorcycle, and once they got that fixed, he was really good. He came in the New Jersey round. He told me they had found some things during outdoor testing, actually, that allowed them to go back to stuff that they were going to run in Supercross and could not. They got it all fixed. They got it all worked out. He got back to the bike that he was supposed to race all season. And in New Jersey, he nearly won the main event. He showed he'd go as fast as the elite. So I'm looking at Osborne as a definite, well, he's just as good as those guys, too. We don't have Muscan this year, but Adam Cianciarulo could be really good. You have Barsha and Plessinger. There's just so many guys. So that's what makes it so cool. We have a small amount of data on how Webb does it, and we have a lot of other guys that could win. It's going to be awesome. And what makes this most difficult to predict is Tomac and Roczen. Because as unpredictable as this era of racing has been, it's not quite like it was in the McGrath or Villapoto or Stu or RC days where you just knew if they lined up, they were going to be the favorite. We're supposed to be in that right now. This is supposed to be Roczen and Tomac's era, just like it was Reed Stu or Bradshaw, JMB, Stanton, where it's like it's going to come down to those guys and no one else can beat them. I believe that that's what we were supposed to have over the last couple of seasons with Tomac and Roczen. Starting in 2014 when they were rookies. By 2015, hashtag who's next, Villapoto retired. They were supposed to take over. They have not done it. They have won plenty of races. They've led points. They've been fast. They've maybe been the two fastest guys, but they have not been able to hold it together. What we have seen the last few years is the chaos that would have ensued if Reed and Stewart got hurt all the time, or Carmichael or McGrath got hurt or messed up and left it wide open, and you had other riders finally getting their opportunity. I'm going to take it to the grave. I respect all these guys, but I believe that Tomac and Roczen had the goods to be dominant the last couple of seasons. They just didn't execute. I mean, you saw Ken Roczen at the beginning of 2017, right? He was really good. You've seen Eli Tomac when he's on, right? He's really good. It is so perplexing and so puzzling. Now, Roczen's deal, hey, he just got hurt. That happens. The Tomac thing, we've discussed it ad nauseum. We'll never figure it out. It's the strangest thing. There are no parallels. I cannot ever remember somebody being like this. I know that Damon Bradshaw once won 9 races and didn't win a championship, but guess what? Damon Bradshaw advertised checkers or wreckers. All season long in 1992, Bradshaw said, I'm going to approach every race like I'm last in points. He was willing to crash to win. So, of course, you're going to win a lot of races, but maybe not score enough points to win the title. That's not Eli Tomac. Eli Tomac hardly gets hurt. He doesn't have massive yard sale crashes. He's won 3 straight Lucas Oil Pro Motocross championships, which require you to be pretty good across the board for 24 motos. 3 straight years. He's done that. It is so odd, these 3 or 4 terrible Tomac races a year, and it's not because he's trying to jump some quad that no one can jump, or he's going through the whoops in 5th gear when he should be in 3rd. He just does dumb stuff. I don't understand it. I've got a million theories. Maybe none of them are right. Maybe 3 of them are. Maybe 1. But Eli Tomac, the enigmatic Eli Tomac, has led to this being the most unpredictable era of racing we've seen in probably 25 years. It's because Tomac has the ability to dominate, and he doesn't because he messes up 3 or 4 races a year. Now, it might be insane to think that after 4 years of this, he's going to fix it in year 5. But at the same time, look, if Tomac's holding the number 1 plate in May, is anyone going to say, I am shocked? I am shocked. I am completely shocked that Eli Tomac won this title. Come on. You know you wouldn't be surprised. Tomac is the linchpin of it all. He could so easily win this title, and he could so easily not. I don't think anyone has odds that spin both ways to that degree. It's just, It's just amazing. If Tomac doesn't win the title this year, it's going to make people's heads shake. If Roczen doesn't win the title, everyone's going to say, hey, man, Kenny's giving it the old college try, but he had some major injuries, dude. Honestly, I think even if Webb doesn't win the title this year, it will be surprising, but I don't think it will be like, what is wrong with this guy? Like it will be if Eli Tomac doesn't win it this year. The Tomac thing just makes it all so hard to predict, and a little bit of the Roczen thing as well, but at least he has the injury to blame it on. What it all leads to is a spectacularly difficult season to predict. The Cooper-Webb formula, we don't quite have enough data to have it totally locked down and just say, stamp it, lock it in, he's going to win the title again. The Tomac thing is totally puzzling. The Roczen thing is totally puzzling. I don't know what you're going to get from Jason Anderson. I believe Osborne's a huge sleeper. Man, this is going to be good. So for this episode, let me bring in an expert, someone that has actually won this title before. I called up my old buddy Jeff Emig. Most people forget this, but Emig and I actually spent a lot of time in the TV booth together. Lucas Oil Pro Motocross. We had a good probably 7-year run or something like that together in the booth. In the early years, we had David Bailey and myself for half the races, and then I would announce with Emig for half. And then for a couple years, it was just Emig and I doing all the races together. I love Emig. I've said this over and over. He is way cooler than anyone has a right to be. Whenever I talk to him, he asks how the wife and the kids are doing. He doesn't have to do that. The sun can revolve around Jeff Emig. He was good enough as a racer. He's famous enough and cool enough now where he doesn't have to give anyone his time. But he is awesome about that, and I actually discussed that with him here at the end of this podcast. But here I'll get into some preseason predictions with Emig. Oh, by the way, Jeff had a cold this day, so just don't mind the sniffling. Here we go.
As for you, I try to get a take from a guy like you. Sometimes it is you every year, just coming into the season. I'm assuming that you're still following this. You're still excited about it. You still know what's going on. You're on the inside a bit. You haven't tuned this out, right?
No, I haven't tuned it out. No.
So this is always the most exciting part of the year. We love the retro stuff, but I always say the best thing is for people to want to see the next thing, and that's where we're always in December. Anaheim. We've got Anaheim fever. So, I mean, every year is the best year ever. It's always going to be amazing. But what are your thoughts?
It is for like 10 guys. It is for like 10 guys right now. There's 10 guys right now that are going to be Supercross champion. Unfortunately, there's only going to be one of them once we get to the first week of May.
Dude, it's exactly it.
Right.
And I know we think that every year, but I feel like, hey, we've seen 2 riders win 1 title the last 2 years, so it's not quite as dominant as it's been. I feel like we think this every year, but maybe this year it's a little more legit over the, it's really hard to predict how this is going to go. That's what I feel, at least. I don't know. What do you think?
I do think that it's incredibly unpredictable.
Yeah.
I think that the Supercross Live power rankings was interesting.
Yep.
Maybe not completely surprising that they had Eli Tomac at the top. And so I guess, to me, there is a ton of pressure on Eli Tomac at this time.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure that he knows it. I'm sure that he's putting as much pressure on himself, and it's not like, oh, whatever happens. No, it's time to get it done. I mean, I know that after being second, third, fourth, things like that to McGrath back in the 90s, some years, there was some pressure to finally do something about it, but I mean, you compare what Eli's done at this point of his career to mine, it's not even close. I mean, he's got 27,
yeah.
27 wins and no title, right? I had 7 total, 7 wins and 1 title.
Right.
So, I personally cannot even put that, I can't even fathom what it's like to be in his boots after all those wins and no title,
And what makes it weirder is it's not like you can point to one thing. It's like every year something different.
I would put it down to mental mistakes.
Oh, okay.
I can point to one thing.
Okay.
And he didn't like some of these comments when I was on the Fox Sports broadcast, but for sure, the Supercross is just so, the mental toughness that you have to have is really, I mean, like nothing I've ever seen, because it all happens so fast, And, you can say that it's 17 race championship, but, we know that by like Daytona or so is when you start to get an idea of what's going to happen,
Yep.
So you've got about 6 or 7, 8 weeks, 8 races, let's say, to win the thing.
Yeah.
So then you take that and that window is just so small. And most of the time it's about not making any big mistakes, right?
Yep.
And unfortunately, Tomac has his career in Supercross really has been defined by these mistakes. And so, man, he's the guy with all the pressure to get it done, in my mind.
Yes, I see what you're saying. Even though it might be a different thing happening each time, it all goes back to the same thing. It's these mental mistakes that cause all the different things to happen.
Yeah.
Yep.
To me, 100.
Well, does it get worse then? Does it get harder when we keep talking about how much pressure he's under to finally get it done. Doesn't that only make it potentially even more difficult because the pressure is ramping up each year?
It is, but it could be one of his most defining moments of his career.
Yep.
Now he also has, I'm not on the inside with Monster Energy Kawasaki and their team, but with Adam Cincerillo being added to the team, joining the 450 ranks, really as a mature rookie, right? It's not like when Trey Kennard or even myself back in the day, we got bumped to the big bike class really quickly. We weren't nearly mature enough, in our career to be there. Well, Adam, because of injuries and this and that, and just in general, I think he comes in with the maturity level that it's going to take to compete. So how does that work for the team chemistry, right? Like if Adam comes out and whoops up on Tomac, who knows, man? I mean, that's just, to me, that's one of the storylines. Well, there's 2 storylines right there wrapped up just in Team Kawasaki.
Yeah.
So I mean, yeah, that could be, who knows? You take it back to, the early 90s when you had 2 roosters in the hen house over at Team Honda, and you had, Jeff Stanton and Jean-Michel Bale, who didn't, they were racing against each other.
Yeah.
To intentionally, sorry, you're both riding Hondas, but, I can tell you for sure that in the final race, Jean-Michel Bale was not trying to help Jeff Stanton win that race in '92. I'm sorry, win the title.
Yeah.
He didn't want him to win, and their teammates. So that stuff can happen. It doesn't. You don't have to be friends just because you're on the same team. And when you got 2 guys that are highly motivated to go after the same thing, and they're both really at their prime, and you can see Kawasaki has really put just a tremendous amount of focus on this. And there could be feathers flying, if you will.
It's weird because a lot of rookies come with hype, and to be honest, most of the time they barely even or don't even get through the 17 races, let alone contend for the title. But you're seeing maybe the Cianciarulo situation is a little bit different. Most rookies don't deliver. It takes a few years to even make the races and then get results. But do you think his situation might be a little different than other rookies?
I do.
I see.
I do.
Yep.
I do 100%.
Okay.
And so he's going to be a contender straight off the top. I mean, I'm looking at the Supercross Live Power rankings right now, and they had him 4th.
Yep.
Ahead of Jason Anderson, who's won the championship before. So, not they, but the voters,
yep.
I should say.
There's a lot of hype, no doubt. Okay, you mentioned Anderson, and then we go to Cooper Webb. These are the guys that have won the title the last 2 years. Now, look, dude, I hate this, but you get to be the shining example of, oh, man, winning the title once. Is it hard to repeat? Unfortunately, surrounding you are guys that repeated, but we go through the record book and we see the one. Your situation is probably different. Congratulations. But
yeah, that's the one record that I do hold is I'm the only Supercross champion to not win a main event after winning the title.
Congrats.
Well, wait, technically Donnie Hansen was, but he had the injury that
he didn't race.
Forced him into an early retirement. Yes.
Well, Anderson only raced 3 times last year. He didn't win one. So there you go.
I am confident that he will not join me on this list by the time that his career is over, and I feel like Jason Anderson has another Supercross title in him.
Ooh.
So, yeah, definitely.
Okay. So what I'm getting at here is, and maybe your situation is different than most. I mean, 1998 was a wild year, but is it? Everybody says, "Oh, winning is one thing and defending is another." From your perspective, or even the perspective you've seen with other riders, how different is it? How different is it for Anderson now that he's already won it, and Cooper Webb now that they've won it? How different is it to have it as opposed to chase it?
Well, I mean, Anderson, had injuries and things like that, and it wasn't like he just came in and just got beat. I mean, Webb is the one that has the pressure on him right now, and even though he's the guy, he's the reigning champ, the voters of the Supercross Live Power Rankings put Tomac ahead of him. Yep. And so, with Webb specifically, it's like, hey, wait a second, I'm the champ. So right now, what do you have to do? You have to go prove yourself again and again and again. And so that's what Anderson's thinking. He's thinking, okay, wow, just because I've won it before doesn't mean that this is easy. It's really a difficult thing to do. Unfortunately, you have guys like Villopoto, Dungey, Carmichael, Stewart, Reed, McGrath that made it look easy at times, and they just had the formula for something that was so difficult. I mean, so difficult. There's so many things that have to go right for it to look that easy, and so much work that goes into it. And so these guys are just hoping to be the next guy that gets that formula figured out. Webb certainly has all of the right ingredients for that. But once again, he has to go out and prove himself again,
You're not worried at all of like, oh man, you get it and then you lose that drive or you lose that motivation. Are you worried about that? I guess in this case it'd be for Webb because he's the defender. Is that a worry at all?
No, he's won at every level of his career. And even a couple of years ago when he was probably even doubting himself, he found a way to put himself in a position, take advantage of the opportunity that Red Bull KTM gave him, and went out and won the Monster Energy Supercross title. So, it's only he can decide whether or not this is the last one that's in him.
That's good.
We don't know that. So,
one other rider we have to talk about here is Ken Roczen. Which, first of all, it sounds crazy. Still just waiting for him to win a Supercross race for the first time since his injury, which sounds nuts because he's been close and good a lot.
Close.
Done it. Yeah.
Close.
Dude. It's hard to believe he hasn't won one. Where are you at with him? I mean, usually we go into the year saying he's right there with everybody else. Is that where you are, or do you worry about things? Where are you with Roczen's season hopes?
Well, this young man has faced so much adversity over the last 2-3 years. That's really how you can put it into perspective. I know last year that I did Supercross with Fox Sports, it was pretty easy to criticize and just go week to week and not look at all of the factors. But Ken is a champion. He's been a champion his whole life. And if he's able to champion this and win, first off, a race, and then get on a roll and win the title would just be, it would be one of the greatest accomplishments that our sport's ever seen to me.
Yep.
So, yeah. But, I mean, he has everything it takes to do it. There's no doubt in my mind. So.
Yeah. Yeah, so he's
there's 5 guys. So there's 5 guys that we have are going to win it.
That's what I'm saying.
Right? You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So, yeah, that's what just makes it so compelling to watch. That's why people love Monster Energy Supercross, and the fact that every Saturday night they get to tune in and or either go to the race and see the next episode, I think it's just fantastic. I'll take this over Real Housewives.
That's awesome. All right, one other topic I want to tackle. So I was at the races in New Zealand and Australia, and Carmichael was there kind of as an ambassador type, doing some riding, but he's on the PR side also. And he told me in the press conference, he's like, I've had a lot of great mentors that helped me, prepare for this. And I was thinking, oh, maybe some of the NASCAR people he knows. And then later on, I'm like, yeah, so who were some of these mentors that helped you do this? And he's like, honestly, man, it's Fro. He's like, Fro really taught me a lot about, off the track stuff. So congrats or a compliment to you there. Is that something that you learned from other people? Is that something you concentrated on? Is that just a natural thing for you? But he's like, Jeff is really good at this type of thing, and I tried to learn from him, the non-racing stuff. Where did that come from for you?
I try to focus on giving him some really solid examples of what not to do.
Okay.
So that...
All right.
No, but I just think along the way, I've had these moments, these things that I've learned from. I can't tell you how many times I've put my foot in my mouth and tried to be funny, but it ended up I came off as a smart ass and was embarrassing to me or somebody else. And I think as I've gotten older, my time with Supercross and the broadcast and the work that I do with other companies is I try to be real and genuine, right? Mm-hmm. And I try to be thoughtful, and especially these days. I mean, dude, I just turned 49, So I really put an emphasis on trying to be conscious of who the stakeholders are in whatever business we're doing that day, right?
Yeah.
And one thing that always resonated with me was being thankful and being appreciative. And trust me, there were some times in the 90s when I was probably the most arrogant asshole at the event, right? Like, you can quote me on that. Okay. That's going to make the highlight.
Yeah, there you
go. And that's just immaturity, right? And so without leadership, without mentors, you have to unfortunately learn those things the hard way. And I feel like I did. Ricky's such a genuine dude. I know all of us that know him well, we know him and love him, and he, trust me, he can dish it out as much as he takes. But he's so humble at times, and so for him to mention that, makes me feel like I've done my job as a mentor to him and as a friend. Mm-hmm. And as a stakeholder in the industry. But I want to tell this story. I worked with this photographer one time, mm-hmm. and he had done a photo shoot with David Beckham, right?
Okay.
And let's say that there were, 12 people at the photo shoot. He says, David comes in, so here he is, global mega superstar, blah, 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 blah. Comes in, introduces himself to the producer, the boss, the camera guy, the guy sweeping the floor, the girl getting coffee, you name it, right? Mm-hmm. Does his work, gets done, is like, hey, does everyone have what they need? Like, even the girl getting the coffee, do you need anything else today, right? Everyone's good? Okay, great. Then it looks like we're done here. So he goes back around, in reverse, goes through, shakes everyone's hand, thanks them for their time and for their effort. Thank you for being here, blah, blah, blah. And this photographer was like, I've never seen anything like it. And to me, that resonated so much. And that to me is something that I'm very conscious of whenever I'm in situations, and it could be any type of situation. It doesn't have to be some superstar photo shoot, but just in general is being compassionate and friendly and appreciative stuff. And I think that Ricky exemplifies that in a lot of ways. I know Ricky and we have a lot of fun with the Real Talk 447 podcast, and we like to get after each other. But I don't think you could find two different people to end up being friends than like he and I. I mean, we're like the odd couple.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if he had told us back in 1997 when he was first year pro that he and I would have the friendship that we do and do the work that we do, and we'll have traveled the world together and vacation together and everything that we do, I would have said, you're crazy. No chance. But we do really have a pretty special relationship. So.
Hey, by the way, did you have that, your racing career should have gone on longer than it did. Did you get to that point as a racer, or did the maturity part not align with your athlete riding time?
No, unfortunately, I've always been delayed in that. Like, you know, I would probably say a lot of my maturity probably hasn't followed exactly where I was at. I tend to learn a lot of lessons the hard way. So,
okay.
But that's life. It is what it is. Any adversity that I face in life, I still, like I said, at 49, I still have lived a great life, and I've got a lot of wonderful people around me, and I get to do what I love, and so I can't complain.
Hey, we'll have more with Emig in a second. Just want to send another shout out to Yoshimura. Go to yoshimura-rd.com. Check out their latest exhaust systems, including the all-new RS12 system for the Suzuki RMZ 450 and RMZ 250. I rode a Suzuki RMZ 250 at Glen Helen a couple weeks ago with Mathis. It's really fun. Really fun to be on that motocross track. Don't let anyone talk trash on Glen Helen. Well, maybe they do during Stopwatch Nationals time in April and May. But it was awesome in December, I can tell you that. So go to Yoshimura. Also go to racerxonline.com/subscribe or just racerxonline.com. We've got a ton of preseason stuff for you to read. And I want to get back to Emig, who had another story about why signing autographs and doing media obligations and all these things are actually good for a rider. And he wanted to explain it like this.
Autograph sessions when I was early in my career. And it's like the team leaders, if you will, were like, hey, you get there 5 minutes late, leave 15 minutes early, and, time to go. And I remember because I was that little kid that was in line that wanted the autograph, but I stuttered so bad I couldn't even say, hey, stop, can you sign this? Right. So I could never get there. So I know that when it became my time, when I was maybe, the top of the totem pole, and it's like if we went to an appearance or something and I drove, well, then you guys have to wait for me. And it's like, hey, let's go. We're only supposed to be here until 7 p.m. Dude, there's still 100 people in line that have been waiting for 2 hours. Okay. and here's the thing. Now, race day is a completely different deal. Race day, the fact that some of the teams went to a ticket thing where you had to have a ticket. They only have so much time, the riders do on race day.
Right.
Okay.
Yep.
You could sit there and sign all day long. Right.
Yeah.
But it's like these younger athletes, when they come through and they're kind of uncomfortable, or they kind of don't have a good attitude about the appearances, right? Mm-hmm. What do you think these people that waited in line for 2 hours, right? And we know the first hour that was outside in the rain, right? Because the line was out the door, right? What do you think that they're going to say to you when they finally get to meet you? Are they going to be like, hey, you're a piece of shit, man. I can't wait for you to get beat this weekend, blah, blah, blah. No, that's not how it works. They're there. They are in line to tell you something very positive about how they like the way you ride. They like the way you look. We're the biggest fans. We support you, blah, 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 blah. Right?
Yep.
Weege. Wouldn't it be rad if you went someplace? Well, you do, but every Friday night.
Not quite there.
Let's say your buddy that's the plumber.
Yeah.
Okay, he gets off work at Friday. He goes home and showers, and then he goes someplace on Friday night.
Yep.
And for an hour and a half, people come up and say hello to him and go, "Man, hey boss. Dude, I am so stoked. Oh, man, you have done the best job on that plumbing job. And I just really appreciate – you know what I mean?
You're right.
Put it into perspective, dude. And then sometimes you have these athletes that don't really embrace that.
Yeah. Yep. That makes sense.
Think about what is happening. And so these people took their time out of their day to specifically wait in line to come shake your hand.
and tell you they're rooting for you. Tell you they want you to win.
Tell you we're the biggest fans. We buy all your products, blah, blah, blah. So, you can even look at it, in the economical way, like it trickles down to that's how you get paid, right? But more so, it's about just being respectful to people, and being appreciative and humble. And so if whoever was my mentor that it wore off on me and got to that point, and I'm really stoked that Ricky embraces it like that too.
Yeah, that is funny. One time, DeCoster, when Dungey first went to KTM, he asked me like halfway through the season, "How are Dungey's interviews?" And I'm like, "Team managers never care about interviews. Why do you care? Don't you just care about results?" And he's like, "No, I do care because the more fans like him, the more fans root for him, the better you ride. I can't get him to meet all 50,000 of these people personally to make them like him. But if he does a good job with the media, he's going to have more people rooting for you, and that makes you perform better. So that's what I want. I want the fans to be pumped on the guy." And I had not thought of it that way, but yeah, I guess if you're hearing all weekend people saying, "I want you to win," it does make you probably ride better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and the great thing about Ricky right now, too, is he's got that confidence and that swagger when he talks to people, is that he can, make fun of them and give somebody shit, and then they appreciate it. You know what I mean? His sort of, his character that way. And so
it's an honor.
That's why it's so much fun to be around. Yeah.
It's an honor to get insulted.
Yeah. It's like sending the Hallmark card and you care to send the very best.
Yeah, so that's our guy Emig. Big thanks to him for the time. Thanks to you for listening throughout the year. This is actually the second year of the Racer X Exhaust podcast, which in podcast terms makes this one of the originals. Yeah, I think between 2018 and now, 900 new podcasts have come out. But I've got much bigger plans for 2020. Don't worry. Much bigger plans. I got a lot of cool stuff I want to do. We got some new people at Racer X who are going to help with the nuts and bolts, and I'm going to get to do even more creative stuff. So look forward to that. That's my New Year's resolution. If by March I don't have anything new going on, come at me, bro. That's it for our show. Thanks to Yoshimura-RD.com and, of course, RacerXOnline.com, and to you for listening throughout the year. Can't wait for Anaheim. And I'll have another podcast this week with the sleeper, Zach Osborne, before we get there, and then I'll probably crank out another maybe at Press Day on Friday. Wall-to-wall coverage, because it's Christmas, it's New Year's, it's Anaheim, coming Saturday. Thanks for listening.